Holy smokes, everyone. Just when you thought the Federal Reserve's reputation couldn't get any worse, it just has. During the last couple of weeks, it's been brought to light that Jerome Powell and many of the Federal Reserve's executives have been trading during the 2020 pandemic, during when there was a lot of meetings and crises, when they had insider information. They were making $1 million plus trades based on this information and profiting from America's downfall. So in today's video, we're going to go over how people are now criticizing the Fed. Jerome Powell's come under fire. His executives like Kaplan that have been making $1 million plus trades has also come under fire. And Powell has been ordered to conduct an ethics review at the Federal Reserve. And to me, the timing couldn't be any more of a coincidence. When this is all going, as the stock market and the market's at all-time highs, maybe this could be the perfect excuse for Jerome Powell and his officials to cash out at all-time highs. Okay, everybody, let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into it. Well, look at this, everybody. Fed Chief Powell and other officials own securities that the central bank bought during the COVID pandemic. This is something I've been talking about for a while, everyone, especially when the Federal Reserve announced something it's never done before during 2020, when it pretty much bailed out the stock market directly when it announced it will start buying corporate bonds. This is just when a company can create an IOU, and the reason they did this was during 2020, like what's happening in China with Evergrande right now. Nobody wants to buy these real estate junk bonds in China. And the same thing was happening in the US. Nobody wanted to buy these corporate bonds for these companies like in the S&P 500 because they didn't know what was going to happen with this unprecedented pandemic. So CNBC found that Powell owned municipal bonds. That's just state bonds, because normally the Federal Reserve, they'll buy federal, US treasuries. But during the pandemic, they started buying state bonds so the state can issue IOUs to raise funding as well. So he owned these bonds, and then he was the one that made a decision that the Fed should start buying these bonds to pump these prices of these bonds up. And it's not just him. Two regional Fed presidents likewise own assets at the same time the Fed was buying as the coronavirus threatened the US economic health. And so Powell and his officials saying, well, look, it's part of the rules. Technically we didn't do anything wrong. But people, when we look at it, take it for what it is. It's borderline insider trading. So the central bank code of conduct says officials should be careful to avoid any dealings or other conduct that might convey even an appearance of a conflict between their personal interests, the interests of the system, and the public's interest. People, it's clearly saying here in the central bank's code of conduct, you shouldn't be buying, trading these securities. You shouldn't really do anything that would even have the appearance of insider trading. But of course, they ignored this when America was facing its deepest crisis, when people were losing their jobs, when the economy was tanking. These people were taking advantage of it and making millions. And this is why I talk about the Federal Reserve so much and central banks, because people, these are some of the most corrupt officials you can get. And now they're coming up with more lies. They're virtual signaling, saying they're trying to, help the climate, when I don't know how a central bank can help with climate change. They're trying to say they want full inclusive employment. Well, how can them buying corporate bonds and state bonds all of a sudden to say, okay, we're going to allocate this QE to minorities? Of course they can't do that, people. It is them just trying to make themselves look good. And it also gives them an excuse to keep on printing money, because even if unemployment goes down, they'll say we need more full inclusive employment. So look at some of these trades, everybody. So Boston Fed President Eric Rosengren held between $151,000 and $800,000 worth of real estate investment trusts that owned mortgage-backed securities. And what did the Fed do in 2020? They brought a whole bunch of these mortgage-backed securities, and they're still buying $40 billion every month. And people, this is very, very dodgy. Listen to this. He made as many as, not one, not two, not a few trades, 37 separate trades in the 4 REITs, real estate investment trusts, while the Fed purchased almost $700 billion in mortgage-backed securities. What the flippity flip-flap flops going on, everyone? This is clearly, he's trading based on insider information. If, he just brought it before and he's held it, maybe okay, but 37 different trades. That's crazy. Also, Richmond Fed President Thomas Barklin, he held 1.35 million to 3 million in individual corporate bonds purchased before 2020, just as they announced they're going to start buying these bonds. They include bonds of Pepsi, Home Depot, and Ali Lilly. The Fed last year opened a corporate bond buying facility and they purchased 46.5 billion of these corporate bonds. And who do they go through, everybody? They use BlackRock, which, we're not big fans of BlackRock, especially with them going up and buying all the homes. But also, Jerome Powell, he has his investments with BlackRock. That's where he has his portfolio. So the Fed going through BlackRock to buy these corporate bonds just seems to show a bit of conflict of interest as well. And so Barklin also declined to comment, which just makes it even seem more shady. And listen to this, everyone, I completely agree. To think that such trading is acceptable because it is supposedly allowed by the Fed's current policy only highlights that the Fed's policy are woefully deficient. So Keller said during a crisis like last year, the whole year should have been considered a blackout period. That's a period where central bankers can't trade because Fed officials were constantly talking and crafting policy to fast-moving events. And again, people, the timing couldn't be any more perfect for Fed officials like Kaplan. He's saying, okay, we're going to now sell all our stocks. Right up here when the S&P 500 is at all-time highs. And it's looking like during the past month, we may be entering into a downtrend. So again, they say, okay, look, it's not ethically right. Okay, we'll sell at all-time highs. Well, okay, so why should we care, everyone? Well, this just goes to show that the central bank was never created for the people. It was created after the 1907 crisis when there was huge bank runs. The banks kept going under because people kept doing runs on the banks. So they had to create the Federal Reserve to bail out the banks and to keep printing its own currency. The purpose was never designed for the people's interests, for the public's interests. It's always in the banking and the financial system's interest. And of course, all these officials that are meant to be serving the public are obviously making multi-million-dollar trades with insider information, and they're profiting at a time when many Americans were struggling. And also, this is a bad time for Jerome Powell because this year they're going to be deciding whether Jerome Powell keeps his job or they bring in a new Fed chair. And I'm thinking that Biden may want to bring someone else in because I know Biden definitely wants to spend a lot of money. So maybe he'll kick Powell out and bring someone in there that'll keep the money printer going. So everyone, what do you think about this? I think it's pretty shocking. It shows the kind of corruption that's going on at the Federal Reserve. If this kind of things happened at banks, maybe someone would be in jail. But with our central bankers, it's just ethic concerns. Now, for all my loyal viewers and subscribers still watching, you're awesome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.